So I'm getting the sense that the partners have now asked the questions back and forth, and we have answers. Is everybody complete? No, one person's not. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to do a little. Thank you for running. Yes. Yep. I will visit you for just a second. All right. So now we're going to go back to a little tiny bit of history now that you've experienced this. Because if I did talk to you about all of this stuff, then I would have changed your experience. And I don't want to change the experience, because what I want you to do is I want you to have the knowledge that you gained from the experience before we go into this. So there's many, many different designs of labyrinths. The one that I handed to you is called the 7 circuit or the 7 seed. So there are 7 circuits in this labyrinth. It is the oldest one that we have found. So when we think of a labyrinth, and I'm just going to use this little dispelling thing, most of us have heard about the Minotaur in the labyrinth. Well, let's get something straight. That was not a labyrinth. A labyrinth has one path in, one path out. It is not scary. It does not create fear, and you cannot die in a labyrinth. Nothing will kill you in a labyrinth, okay? The only thing the labyrinths do is help you. There is no Minotaur in a labyrinth. So they have one thing, that one thing in common is the one path in and one path out. And if you think about that, that is a metaphor for life. We are on the path. We will get to the center. And if you look at a labyrinth, it curves in and goes out. And what happens with that, and this is the amazing thing that happens, is that when we walk in on a labyrinth and we are tracing a labyrinth, we walk in on the 3rd chakra. Every path relates to a chakra. Every path relates to a harmonic vibration. Labyrinths combine all of our knowledge in one way or another. So they have color, they have vibration. They are sentient. They are connected through the ley lines to every other labyrinth in the world. They are connected through the ley lines to every sacred place in the world. When you reach the center of a labyrinth, you are standing in Machu Picchu. You are standing in the Chartres Cathedral in France. You are standing at Stonehenge. They are connected. What you do in a labyrinth is sent out through the ley lines, Earth's electronic web, its natural electronic web, to all of the other labyrinths, to all of the other sacred sites, because the ley lines carry the message. Where 2 ley lines cross, that's a nexus. And you'll find that the crossing of a ley line is where we and our ancient forefathers have built sacred sites. Every sacred site has ley lines. The other thing that's really cool is a labyrinth will call water. What's water? Water's our lifeblood. Without water, we die. Without water, this planet dies. That water travels around the earth. Water has memory. We know that. The labyrinth calls up water domes. Dowsers have used labyrinths to call water to arid places and to give water to places where there is no water. Because once the labyrinth is built, it will call. It will bring up water. It will call a ley line. It wants to be connected. The earth connects up its neural system. So if you imagine, like when you get cut, you're cutting nerves, right? Okay, well, the cut heals. And guess what? You feel again. Those nerves can reconnect. Your body does it. Why would you not think the earth does it? The earth's doing that. So in this connection and in the labyrinth, you are part of the whole. You become part of the whole. You are connected. Your prayers, your needs are transmitted. And they are responded to. There is a response. They form a link between the worlds seen and unseen. So in the center of a labyrinth also is a vortex. You have a vortex going up and a vortex going down. So your thoughts, your message goes in the spiral upward, and it also goes downward. The downward spiral carries your message around the world. If you pray in a labyrinth, your prayers are heard around the world. And you're also praying with everyone else in every sacred spot, in every other labyrinth, and all over the world. You're joined. So, science proves, scientific proof, that when you walk into a labyrinth, your mind, your conscious mind, the alpha wave pattern that is our conscious mind, stops. Because consciously, your brain can't figure out how you can be walking away from the center that you want to walk to, and how's this going to ever happen? So consciously, you have to be in a place of trust. That place of trust is in the right brain, beta. And the Dowser brainwave is another brainwave. And that happens when you get to the center. And that's if you want to call it, they've called it the Dowser brainwave because it is a brainwave that they have actually identified that when a person is dowsing, this is the electrical pattern in our brain. It's called the Dowser brainwave. And it's a combination that it's not alpha, it's not beta, it's not omega. It's a combination wave that they're calling the Dowser brainwave. And that's our connection. So the labyrinth helps us shut off that conscious mind, gets us into the beta, and then gets us into that Dowser state, whether you're a Dowser or not, whether you're consciously a Dowser or not. But it connects you to all it is, quickly, easily, and efficiently. The other thing you need to know is that in your inner ear is a little piece, okay, part of our body, part of our DNA that's called a labyrinth. So when a baby's in vitro, and it's growing, it's becoming, cells are dividing, this little piece grows in our inner ear. And what that little piece, and it does look like a labyrinth, like the one you're looking at, kind of like our brain, but repeated in our ear. What that piece does is it translates sound wave frequency into patterns that we can identify as language. If a child is born damaged DNA If a child is born without that inner ear labyrinth, they will never have language. If a person is in an accident and that is damaged and unrepairable, they can relearn a language because their brain has already learned language. But without that little piece, the brain has no way of translating sound wave. Stranger than fact? Oh yeah, but it's science. Science has proven it. So we carry in our DNA the pattern of the labyrinth. Our bodies have carried, as human beings, ever since a human has walked this earth, in our DNA, is the pattern of the labyrinth. Why? Why? Why is this symbol so important to humanity that it's encoded in our DNA? I don't have an answer. I'm still learning. I'm still on the path. And I'm learning with all of you guys. So, one of the things that we are going to do today is I have given you a little project that you just completed. And we're going to talk about how very simple it was to take someone who is in stress, anxiety, in trauma, get them to a place where you can work with them. So a couple of other little factoids. So Harvard University was doing studies with labyrinths, and they took what they call test-phobic students. Students who are brilliant, very smart, can't test them. The minute they get into a test situation, they're done. I'm out the door. You cannot, they test poorly. They gave those students labyrinths, and they told them to, as you did it with your finger, walk this labyrinth, okay, while you're taking the test. Scientific proof. Those students tested 35 to 45% higher on their tests. Now, granted, they're very smart people, but they have to get through their anxiety and their fear of failure in order to get to be able to read the test and write down the answers. And the labyrinth was able to break through that for them. Again, I think it was Yale was using labyrinths with young children who were having, what do they call it, nervous breakdowns in the room. So you're talking about really young children, kindergarten age, first grade. And they would use a labyrinth that was carved so that their little fingers didn't slip off. Okay. And the teachers, instead of having to deal with this child kicking and screaming and beating their heads against a wall for some trigger that happened in the room, they could get the child to put their hands on the labyrinth and to kind of start walking their fingers through it. And in a matter of 2 or 3 minutes, they had the child back in their bodies, under control of their emotions, enough so that the teacher could then figure out and work with the student. This is where what I'm showing you today can help you, because all of you are energy workers. All of you are healers. But you need to use your healing gifts when you can do the most good. It's kind of like if there's something simple that you can do to get that person that you're working with to a place where you can put in the finishing touch, yes. Is it something that you can teach this person to do for themselves? Yes. Can they then use it in their life? Yes. I have a young man whose mother died, and father did not want, basically was the absent father. And then father said, okay, family, extended family, you take them because I don't want them. And the young man went from place to place and got to a cousin. So he was passed along, got to a cousin who's now the, I guess you might want to call it the surrogate for the moment, and is totally terrified to do anything wrong because he'll be asked to leave. Totally terrified to go to school, high school. He's in high school. And then, gets off the bus and just forget it. He's not there to be in school, so he can't be taught. And then totally terrified to get off the bus again because what if he does something wrong? He has no place to go. So I started working with him with the Labyrinth. And I just said, hey, here's this thing, use your finger right now because, you're with me and, you're, you can't do anything. You can't work. You can't, you're, what can I do with you? And so let's try this. So he, did the Labyrinth. Okay. Okay, do it again. Did that again. How you feeling? I feel a little better. Okay. Can you, start your job? Yeah, I think I can. Okay. I went and did his job. Came back and I noticed him picking up that piece of paper again. He's doing it. And then he went back to what he was doing, his job. He's a dishwasher, so. And he came up to me and he says, what's this thing? He says, what is this crazy thing? And I said, it's a labyrinth. He says, can I have it? Can I have it? I said, sure you can. He says, is it going to work every time? I said, I think so, if you use it. He knew none of the stuff that you guys know, but it made him feel better. It lowered the anxiety, okay, to the point where he could function because his need was to be able to not be thrown out. The minute he went into the anxiety, his triggers the fear. You're going to throw me out of here. I'm going to be thrown out the door. I'm going to be abandoned again. Blah, blah, blah. Wow. He comes in the next weekend and he goes, I used that on the bus. He says, I was able to walk out the door of the bus and walk up to the house. It was really freaking cool. I said, oh, so how's it going? He said, it's really cool. He said, I'm not telling anybody else about it because they're going to think I'm nuts. It is very cool. Okay. So now it's your turn. Who would like to kind of share what they got from this? Because each one of you was both a person in stress, and each one of you were a person who was dowsing to find out how the labyrinth affected their subject. So we had a number one dowser and a number two dowser. And we had a number one person who was in stress and a number two person who was in stress. Anybody want to share? This is Marilyn.
Hi. So when I was asked for something that frustrated me and put me in stress, I immediately thought of my ex-husband. And oof. So I was 100% stressed at that point and walked the labyrinth and just repeated his name over and over and over again. Then I got to the center and the stress just disappeared. It was so cool. And I can even think of him now without feeling stress. It's kind of funny. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so and were you her partner? Okay, so now that you have gotten her to that point, what could you do to help? Okay, so let's just pretend that her husband, her ex-husband, has just, and she's come to you, and the ex-husband is like taking away her house, and she has no place to go, and she starts crying, and she just keeps babbling, and she adds more and more things about what are all the bad things that are going to happen to her. You've just gotten her to this point. Now what would be your next advice? You got her to this point. She's calm. What would you say to her?
Let's take this one step at a time.
But could you have said, that's right. And could you can now say,
Let's break this down, handle one issue at a time.
and you could lead her through it.
Yes.
But could you lead her through it? Because before, when she was babbling and crying and coming up with
No.
But now you can do your work. Okay. It was quick. It was easy.
Should I share my
Yes.
experience too? So I thought about something that stressed me out. And in doing the labyrinth, I came to understand why it stresses me out. It really broke down to, it's okay if I turn on the TV, but this is the part that triggers me. So I got an understanding of it, which was like amazing. So thank you.
Would anybody else like to share? Da-da-da. Here you go.
Hi, I'm Roseanne. So, I have, I'm a natural dowser, I guess. So I've never used a pendulum. And so when I asked her the question, it immediately, I've never seen it do this. It immediately went to 75%, like right away. And then after she did the labyrinth, it went minus 75%, the whole other direction. So I can't, you can't make this stuff up. So then, and then when we were finished and she was done doing it, and I kept getting 100% in the middle, and I thought the question was, oh, is she still stressed? But the question was, is it all gone? Can I work with her now? And it was 100%. Yeah. Yeah. And she felt totally fine after, didn't you?
I did.
She did. Cool. Very cool.
Sure. I think so. The thing that I noticed in this exercise was that once I worked with the labyrinth myself, it was so easy to, it cleared the path for me. Like I can see the benefit of the personal practice of using it regularly and taking each step and like really connecting in order to be present for the person that I was working with. So that was my experience, and it really helped me to be able to sit and walk through this process with her. Because we all know we get activated, and sometimes, we're not spiraling in a labyrinth, we're spiraling out in the ether. So this brought me to earth in a really nice way.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to share? So we've had a lot of different experiences back and forth in the room, but I think that you would have to agree that this is a tool that you could use, and you can use it in your life. So, hey, you know what? You've got to get into a car and you've got to go to town, and COVID's there, and you might think that you might get sick or something like that. If you just run your finger through the labyrinth, you can relieve your own stress about it and calmly put on your mask and go to town and not be in fear and be able to accomplish whatever you need to do in your shopping little spree and get back home and not be stressed out and all kinds of other things that happen when you're stressed out. You can get into accidents and everything else like that. That's not a good thing to happen. So I'm going to show you one more little thing, because what we have at the bookstore is we have books on a myriad of different labyrinths. So labyrinths have come down through the centuries. Where there are human beings, there are labyrinths. The labyrinth design changes. I mean, each civilization, each culture has their own design of a labyrinth. It could be a Chartres labyrinth. It could be a heart labyrinth. It could be a Greek labyrinth. There are many, many different patterns. Many patterns. So the bookstore has books on the different patterns. You may relate to a different one, a different design. It'll all do the same thing. However, what we've talked about in other classes is that the person who designs, and I mean who creates a labyrinth, this is a seventh circuit. This is ancient. This is civilizations and civilizations of human beings. This is the one that's carried in our DNA, this pattern. When we create a different labyrinth pattern, the creation through us has a purpose, and you may not align with that purpose. So the heart labyrinth is really about opening the heart. It's about love. And if you're not looking for that, and you're not working with opening your heart chakra, you may not resonate with it. It may not do the same things for you, because the creator of that labyrinth meant it for maybe, like you might want to call a love potion. So just keep in mind that the different patterns have different purpose. You might want to read about their purpose or where they were created and what their purpose was before you start using it with yourself or someone else. You can choose, you can dowse it to say which one's right for you. So the way you walk a labyrinth is just the way that you guys did it. You walk in with your finger, you go in, and you start your pathway and you wind around and you get to the center and you really release or stand for a few moments, and then you walk out and then you turn to the labyrinth and say thank you. If this is a physical labyrinth I'm talking about, you can do it to your paper one too, and just thank you for whatever's come. It's really a nice thing to do, to give gratitude for what you've gotten. I like the people that have these labyrinths, the ones that are hard copy. Marty Lucas has these in the vendor area. So I want to show you I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about when somebody creates something for a specific purpose. So if you turn your thing over and just look at it, don't run your fingers on it. Please do not do that, okay? This labyrinth was created in 2019 by 3 of us, myself, Marty Lucas, and Leanne Potter. And it is a DNA labyrinth. We created it to repair damaged DNA in the human body. So anybody walking it would have you may have none, you may have one, you may have a myriad of damages, whether it's from EMFs or accidents or traumas or whatever happened. But it's designed to work on the repair of that DNA. This labyrinth is not walked the same way. So if you read at the bottom, we put it in kind of big letters. To exit, you've already walked to the center. From the center, you see the black diamond. You would run your finger into the black diamond and out the entrance. The reason for that is because once the labyrinth has worked on your damaged DNA. You do not want to walk out and unspiral that. You do not want to undo that. You want to seal it. You want to seal the good stuff that happened. So here you have an example of a labyrinth created for a very specific purpose. And you could, I mean, if you're interested in those, Marty Lucas has them. But I wanted you to see an example of the two types so that you knew. You know, you can create a labyrinth. You can create a labyrinth for a specific person. Take that seventh circuit and you can add to it. You can, you know, say, this is what I want you to do. You can give it a purpose. The labyrinths do work with you. Please ask, please. And please ask if it's for the higher good. Can I, may I, should I? Is it right for this person? Can I, may I, should I? And say thank you. Always give gratitude. You work, and I will stress this to the max, you work with a labyrinth. You are not its master. You work with it. It is there to teach you. It is there to help you. It is there to give to you. It is there to connect you. But I have found that if you try to tell it what to do, you may find other things happening. And I'm talking, this is very apparent with anything that's built, you know, a land labyrinth. But with these, they're very malleable. The paper and, you know, the other ones, unless you're making it for somebody, and you can make something, make it for somebody that you love, help them out. If somebody's sick in a hospital, and I will give you another example. Lauren Artris, she is a minister out in San Francisco. She opened up the Chartres Labyrinth again to be walked. She's very, she does the Veritas Project, which is the Chartres Labyrinth. She has created a number of those labyrinths at hospitals. They were created for the health and healing of the patients. Science. Let's let science prove what we know. Scientifically, through the hospitals, a person that walks those labyrinths before and after their operation, if they walk it before, the operation goes 50% smoother. They heal much faster than anyone who does not. Why? Stress and anxiety gone. If you go into an operation, you are going to traumatize a body. If the body is not going in already traumatized by the lights, by the people, by the anxiety, by the fear, if it goes in confidence and in trust, the body works with the healers to heal, and it will heal faster. Why? There's no fear. There's no anxiety. It's in trust. So you can give any of your family or friends who are going to face that kind of thing a little labyrinth for their health and their healing. What a gift. What a gift. I will give you another example. Go look at Lynn Walker. She had face cancer a month ago. You should see if she shows you the picture of her face, what they did. I mean, she looked like Frankenstein. And a month later, she looks like a human being. And the doctors do not understand why. Lynn is a fabulous, fabulous healer. But she knows how to use these things to help her heal. You can use these things. Here's an example. She's right here. Go talk to her about it. I mean, she's right here in the Healing Wellness Center. Sorry. She's at the conference. She's not in the room. But I encourage you to use them. Give them, I mean, your paper ones. There's a few more paper ones. You can take a few. You can copy them. You can find them in many different books. There's things at the bookstore you can get. And you're more than welcome. I'll be here for the rest of the conference to ask me any questions that you have or anything that comes up for you. And if there's any questions from anybody, yay, there we go.
Minimum age.
No minimum age. I would suggest if you have a toddler, babies, even sorry, I don't know what the correct word is to use. We have Special Olympics. There are students or young people that, have challenges. So labyrinths have been built the size for a horse to carry them through to the labyrinth because they cannot walk. Toddlers, I would suggest that you get one of the grooved labyrinths. You can even take a baby's finger and help guide them through it. You can walk as a proxy. Number one, can I, may I, should I? Can I walk this labyrinth for my grandfather who is blah, blah, blah? If you get an answer yes for all those 3 questions, you can walk it as his proxy. So it would be working on him through you. Yes?
What about children on the spectrum and adults with dementia?
So children on the spectrum and adults with dementia. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yes. They make wooden carved ones that are very smooth. They have made plastic molded ones that are very smooth. You can help them with their hands going through it if they don't have the motor skills to do it. You'll find, I know some people that were working with motor skills that were damaged. You'll find that after a while it seems like their motor skills get better. Those connections in the nerves start to reconnect quicker. That's what this person told me, using it for them.
So what about dementia? Relieving anxiety?
It will relieve the anxiety, even if the person doesn't, in the dementia, it actually relieves the fear and the anxiety, but you have to somehow, the fear that they're going to be afraid of what it is. You'll have to use your energy to get through that, to get them. You could even just place their hand on it, in the beginning, so that they have their full hand on it. They're not walking it. Does that make any sense? Anybody else? Yep.
Best book for a beginner?
Best book for a beginner. Sig Longren's book. I would suggest that above everything else. It's called The Labyrinth by Sig Longren. He was one of the founders, he was past president of ASD. He goes back as far as Danville. And he was the first one that did the research in the 19th century and started this whole movement going on again with with our keynote speaker, Patrick McManaway. He was another one that was Sig's cohort, or working at the same time with earth energies, ley lines, and labyrinths. But Sig's book is fabulous. It'll also show you how the labyrinth relates to music, to tone, to color. Oh yeah, there's a lot. There's an awful lot to learn about labyrinths, and we're still learning. Anybody else? Yes.
Little paper labyrinths.
Mm-hmm.
Those connect with the ley lines of all these sacred spots.
Nope, they're not connecting to the ley lines. The ones that are connecting to the ley lines are the in-ground ones or on-ground ones.
Do they have to be done in a certain way? Does somebody have to douse to put them in the right way? Or I know of people who just want to have it labyrinth and have gone out and just done it.
Well, I would hope if they've gone out and just done it, okay, that Spirit has guided them. Okay. I was told in my other class that a woman was exceedingly excited because a church was building a labyrinth near her, and she was really excited to be able to walk it, and it's going to be done, and it was never finished. Wrong place, not right, wrong intention, whatever, spirit just stopped it. Mm-hmm. Okay. If you look at, you go like this. So in a DNA labyrinth, you're here at the center. You go through that black diamond and right out. Okay. You do not walk out on a DNA labyrinth. It will unwind what was done. Any other questions? Oh, the handheld one. So let's just go back to paper ones, okay, for just a second. And I know this may sound a little strange, but have any of you walked a land labyrinth of any kind? Raise your hand. Okay, so there's only a couple of you. If you've walked a land labyrinth, you're carrying it with you. Okay, so the information and the connection, you're carrying it with you to the paper one. The paper one will connect you here and here. Okay, it's going to activate the inner ear labyrinth. Okay, and if you understand what you're clear about what that little thing does. It's translating sound wave, vibration. What is everything? Everything is vibration. So it connects you that way. It does not have a ley line, but it connects you through vibration. So yes, you'll have the connection, but it's a different connection. It's not a ley line connection. Yes. Yes. It's on the Mary Lyons lawn, and we're going to put little tea lights and lights on it tonight. So during the drumming circle, you can walk it in moonlight or whatever. Yes. No. There's a big one on the Mary Lyons green, which is on the other side of the hub. Can't remember that one. I'm trying to learn my words again. So there is a big one. The little one over here is a 5 circuit, and it's a modified charts because it has 4 quadrants. The charts is built on a quadrant system. So it's a little bit different. Anybody else? Any other questions? It's a sweet little labyrinth. Okay. Thank you all for coming. I am here to answer any other questions that you have. And I really appreciate you being here. Thank you.